even though the sun did go up because Koraidon had the ability shield.
I really enjoyed the poison gas from the Weezing too, even though we didn't see a situation where like the game was super in doubt there. I think it's just like a fun move to have for when there's a number of Pokemon that can potentially switch to battle, when being poisoned is bad for everything, and I think kind of just allowing it to chip down a little bit more. The mix of Weezing being able to survive the Volt Switch and also kind of the damage taking, you'd love to Volt Switch there and get out so poison stops ticking, but you have to commit to the Electro Drift because Volt Switch doesn't do enough, and you kind of get to see the advantage there of Weezing, where again, it's a format where most Pokemon aren't going to be offensive juggernauts, which are not restricted Pokemon, but still kind of tie hands with the restricted Pokemon anyway by preventing them from having high value plays.
I want to pick your brains about something else. Wait, was that all the clips you had?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Whew. Great job.
Yeah.
All right, well, I want to pick your brains about something else because we saw that Bayside was running Groudon, but it wasn't just like that. It wasn't just like Groudon was with both of Groudon. And something that I was talking to Underhill about in his winter interview is that there is this kind of interesting sort of dynamic between having really bulky offense or very defensive-oriented teams versus teams that are going to have setup options available to them that can really take advantage of that slow play, and then those teams that are just going to muscle their way through everything because they're so focused on offense. So we are kind of seeing, for one of the first times, I think, on stream, one of those teams that required that setup, but it felt like it was so difficult to accomplish in this particular time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough in that particular matchup just because, I mean, Groudon very physically inclined both with its attack stat but also its defense, and bulk up further boosting that defense, where I think against a team that's more physically oriented, you can probably work a little different than one-on-one. I think kind of like a walkthrough of like, the tempo of these teams. I kind of feel like players got baited a little bit by the previous regulation where we only had one restricted Pokemon. Because of that, we saw a lot of really offensively oriented restricted Pokemon because they tended to need to do all of the damage to a team. Very high percentage of the damage to a team. I think in this format where it's a little easier, I think we probably start off with teams that were like a little skewed, like defensively weak. Now with the Leech Surface teams in particular, we're starting to see more teams kind of like play with the slower grindy style, and then that will allow the teams like the bulk up Groudon to take advantage of that. I kind of wonder if like this isn't a weekend too early where, although I guess we see a lot of that sort of team, but like I think if the format gets slower and kind of more just about turning the flows, then I think being able to have moves that take advantage of those ways, less efficient turns to make your own turns more efficient would be more competitive.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent macro analysis of what's going on. I think maybe talking specifically about this match, it was really hard to get the Groudon going because Grimstorm is usually the option that you want to have in order to bulk up your Pokemon, so to speak, on both the defensive and defensive side, but because they're focusing on the opposing end, they're trained fast enough that Grimstorm is going to taunt you before you can even get into the defensive.
I got the towel.
So you can't really get that onslaught going. I think maybe one adaptation would be if you lead both Grimmsnarl and Groudon against the Weezing, you can say, okay, you're going to taunt my Grimmsnarl, but I'm going to threaten a really big Precipice Blades off onto you. So maybe there's some mix-up that you can consider in the future.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting to think about how all of the different metas have evolved. And I think it's a really crucial point that you made, Scott, that we did have a period where we only had one restricted, and that was the most important Pokemon on your field. And now you have two restricted. So you have one restricted that's the most important on your team, and the other one can help support you.
I'm a stowaway. Please give me passage over to the island. Thank you.
Well. And even Ho-Oh, like, this is the first time I've seen Ho-Oh be relevant ever, I think. And 2010? No, not really.
Oh, it was a squat one. Squat toilet is my favorite.
There was definitely some Ho-Oh in 2010 too. I started out playing
Okay, well, I'll wait till I'm on the island before I go to the toilet then. Maybe a good idea.
Yeah. Good Pokemon in that format too. I think it becomes harder and harder to occupy that slot as we get more and more powerful legendary Pokemon. I think Ho-Oh is really cool. I think it's still I tried every format because I love the Pokemon. Kind of this
That's so funny.
It's good at surviving what your opponent wants to do, but not so good at like actually
Our booking is very old.
For one turn. Oh no!
Well, I can't wait to reminisce on some of these days a little bit more, but for now, I'm going to have to say goodbye.
I'm in the hotel right there.
To go off to the caster desk as we get ready for our
Taking that one?
Swiss. So we're going to get short
two.
when we come back. We're going to have more Pokemon action. Stay tuned.
Yeah, not too bad at all. They might have early check-in if we get there.
Probably get there. 2 o'clock.
Yeah, I think that's not
Standing right here in the lounge, and we're going to take
maybe the episode more, not this one.
Pokemon trading card
anything gonna be cool.
Now there is a brand new expansion that just came out not too long ago. Celestial Guardians
Well, if I
introduces
copy
tons
out, I
of
will
Pokemon
come.
and characters from the Alola region, Sun and
Which is
Moon
good,
era
because that's really the
Pokemon
but
trading card games. So there'll be some familiar cards in here if you're a Pokemon TCG player, some familiar names at least.
Because you have
Let's
to
take a look
wait
at a
for
couple of
everyone
the
to
decks
get
that
off.
have remained popular currently in the brand new format. There was a massive online tournament, grassroots tournament that took place recently, and there was like 2,800 players, and Narumi was the name of the player who ended up winning that whole event with this build
Oh,
right
you're
here,
going
Magnezone
in.
Oricorio. Now,
Good
Oricorio
damage.
is kind of the big new card from Celestial Guardians. It has the Safeguard ability. Now, this ability type is very prevalent in the Pokemon TCG, so something that should look very familiar to all of our players out there. You can prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon EX. And then Zap, 50 damage for 2. It's not too bad. A pretty efficient attacking option there. And the follow-up option, the extra attacker here really, is the Magnezone with its Thunder Blast, 110 damage. And you discard all the energy from it. Of course, powered up by the excellent Magneton with its Volt Charge ability, letting you get that extra energy attached every single turn. This really is one of the strongest abilities in the game. Energy Pocket is just extremely powerful, which will also
You come get a
take
massage
look
because
at
today,
the other
Dad.
deck that I want to look at from this large grassroots tournament that took place. Outside of that, you've got kind of the standard consistency setup here, a couple of Pokeballs, Pokemon communication, just another helpful way to get more of your evolution Pokemon out into play. Professor's Research in order to draw a couple of cards, of course, this is the big one. And then some of the new cards added from Celestial Guardian into this deck. We've got the Louisiana here. Discard all Pokemon tool cards attached to each of your opponent's Pokemon. This can be a
How many
great way
times you
to
stay
get
at this
rid of
hotel?
those, pesky giant capes that are really popular to bring Pokemon's HP back down to a range of where they should be. You can also get rid of Rocky Helmet, so you're not hitting into that and damaging yourself.
I'm a giant of
Lily here to deal 60 damage
Yeah,
on
wow.
stage 2 Pokemon, and this can add some really nice
Very
longevity
popular
and
hotel.
survivability to the Magnezone, which is already very popular, or powerful, I should say. And another way you can get that healing going is with this one of Shaman on the list. So yeah, shout out to Narumi, congratulations on winning such a massive online tournament held by the community. And this is one I definitely think you should try out for yourself on TCG Pocket if you're playing in the ranked ladder. One other deck I did want to talk about here quickly is Darkrai Giratina. This is the best consensus, most popular deck in the game currently. From the last format and the Celestial Guardians, it got just a few extra tools to use. This list was built by James Cox, who's an extremely accomplished Pokemon TCG player, regional champion, he's been the World Championships, and he's been spending a lot of time recently playing TCG Pocket, so I wanted to highlight this list and this build as well. Again, pretty similar to what this deck has been aiming to do. You've got the Darkrai to attach your Darkness energy, get a little bit of damage, really to be able to attack the Pokemon. Then you have the really strong energy efficient attack of the Dark Prism, and then you have Giratina here, of course, to accelerate extra energy from your energy zone into play every single turn. Now, of course, you do not play any Psychic Energy in this deck. You only play the Darkness Energy for the Darkrai EX, and then you can still play Psychic Energy from the energy zone, just a neat little gameplay mechanic quirk of TCG Pocket. And then this one does have a new card here added in from the trainers that you might likely mention. This is extremely strong because your Giratina can hit really hard for 130 damage. You can add extra damage with that Darkrai as well from the Nightmare ability, and then you can discard those giant capes. So specifically against Giratina mirror matches, which are very prevalent in the game, you can get rid of those giant capes. You can take knockouts that you otherwise shouldn't have been able to, or maybe when your opponent wouldn't have expected it. So that's a really big buff from the new expansion. That's what's happening currently in the Pokemon trading card game Pocket. Be sure to try out either of these two decks, check it out for yourself, and we'll see you out there on the ranked ladder.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Oregon Regional Championships. My name is Evan Lack, and would you believe it? It is Yuki right next to me for his first cast here in Portland. Yuki, welcome to the desk.
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, it's so exciting
Thank
to
you
be
for
here.
that.
It's such exciting to start my debut, I guess, as a caster here
Oh,
because
the other one.
it's not only like, kind of new, the beginning of the format where, it's not exactly Milwaukee early, but it's still
The other one?
figuring out what's good. not only that, there's like the Pokemon storyline, but there's also the
Yeah, I
player
can follow that
storyline
back
where
in
we're
here.
getting really
Is
close
that
to the
okay?
end of the season. This is the last event before NAIC and regionals and
Do you need it plugged in?
people are really starting to count down. You might have them
Oh, 1 second.
points to
Don't worry.
qualify for World Championships. So we have a lot of
Yeah,
Pokemon stories to
I'll try.
follow, but also a lot of player stories to follow. So it's a really exciting place to be.
Absolutely. And after this in North American International Championship, in the North American
Or maybe it's a
region,
built-in one.
you need to be
It's okay.
70 bits or better in the championship points rankings to qualify for the World Championship. Or you can win the whole thing
But I
here,
can just
or you can
in the
make it
middle
into
like
the
this. It's
finals
all good.
at the North American International Championship. So, really, it's crunch time for these
Well, my
players
phone,
here, and
no, my phone's
we
on charge
couldn't have
now.
asked for a more explosive
Wouldn't be an
tournament
issue. It's
for
just I don't
people
have
to
any
be,
USB
making or
cables.
breaking
They're
the
all
world
USB-C.
Absolutely
So
close.
that
I
it
mean, we both casted back, or we're in the lounge hanging out, talking about that past game. Really explosive. Like, I mean, these games are over in like 5 turns, and when we're thinking back to like the stack attacker versus stack attacker versus Celesteela, this is maybe not the kind of format where that might happen. So
I don't know. We see Leech Seed Valorant out there. Maybe. Well, let's take a look at
I
how
do,
our competitors are doing so far
but
today. Here is our current Swiss rankings. Again, these are just the 16 players that we have at the top
Yeah.
tables who are 3
It needs to
and
be,
0. There are plenty more players
connected.
who are
It's okay, I
also
can shoot this.
undefeated,
It's all
but
good.
some names that you probably will recognize here. I'm
No,
seeing
it's all
Aaron
good. It's
Trailer and Jay
okay.
Jung, who we just saw, as well as Brian Howe. We've seen a lot on some of these. Gavin Michaels returns to the circuit here and is 3 and 0 in Portland. But also a lot of other players here who are starting at 3 and 0 that have not been on stream a whole lot and are having a really good tournament so far.
It's gonna be 20 minutes before we
Absolutely,
get
like a
to
lot of names that you can
Oh,
recognize,
yeah,
like Jay, we just saw on stream. We've had a lot of success, I think, in this respective format. Like, I personally played against in the Atlanta regionals about last month, and just having really good, strong command over the Maridon,
Maybe wait on this
the
one,
upper bed of
that one.
Maridon, so to speak. And you see that they're also using that a little bit, becoming a bit more standard with the Assault Vest Maridon. And yeah, it's just very exciting to see all these players pick up these more established compositions, but also experiment with a bit more new ones.
Absolutely, and let's take a look at the matches that we have here in our 4th round of Swiss. We are going to be watching Zach versus Logan as our featured match, but take a look at some of these other incredible matches out in the field, and I am looking especially at Benji Irons versus Gavin Michaels. What a throwback pairing that is to see both of those players up against each other here in round 4. Also some other incredible matches here. We obviously saw Jay just before win his 3rd round of Swiss, going up against Jonathan Newman, Ian Campbell versus Jesse Romolo, Anthony Lonergan versus Aaron Trailer, and Benny Vasquez versus Nicholas Morales. Some incredible players here out in the field, and our featured match should be really exciting between Zach and Logan.
Absolutely, and it's even more interesting to think about like where are these players at in terms of their championship counts. I believe Aaron Trailer is also getting pretty close, like getting a very strong finisher would mean a lot. I think a lot of these players, they really want to secure their, quote unquote, hit the threshold that we're all simulating here before NAIC, because once you get to the North American International Championships, you want to just focus on, can this be good prep for Worlds, not is this going to be, potentially ending my season.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to be really crucial for some of these competitors as we head into the end of the season here, heading into the World Championships. And this is sort of crunch time for someone's target, right? In your experience, how does it feel heading into some of these last events, especially if you don't feel like you have to locked up for the World Championships?
Yeah, I think this year is a very different year than the past, quite literally because this is the first time we're doing, at least in modern times, allowing only the top 75 players rather than saying, okay, if you hit X amount of CP, you're automatically qualified. So there's always going to be a bit of ambiguity. It's like, is 900 enough points? Is 950 enough points? You just never know. So you always want to give it your best finish. You can't just say, oh, if I make top 64, that's going to be enough. You always want to push for more. So it might give a little bit of less margin for error, like maybe mentally, but I'm hoping it still means that will give us really good Pokemon action.
All right, well, we are heading on to the stage for our first game here in round 4, Zach Immersion versus Logan Vizur. This is going to be a really exciting matchup. This is something that we talk a little bit about in the lounge. Some of these restricted Pokemon are getting used in different ways than we saw in Regulation G when we had only a single restricted